Hello again, old friend. Allow me a moment to converse with you. You were unable to enter the Erdtree, no? Prevented by the mantle of barbs. The thorns are impenetrable, a husk of the Erdtree's being that spurns all that exists without. The only way to stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord is to pass the thorns. My purpose serves to aid in that very act. So I'd like you to undertake a new journey with me to the Flame of Ruin, far above the clouds, upon the snowy mountaintops of the giants. Then I can set the Erdtree aflame and guide you down the path to becoming Elden Lord.
Following my final lead on breaking through the Erdtree and gaining access to Queen Marika, I climbed the frozen land of the fire giants in search of their great flame. I traversed long-forgotten battlefields covered in frozen corpses, climbing giant chains, breaking through ancient ruins, and facing off against the most dangerous zealots and exiles from the lands between. And I finally found the abode of the last fire giants. Hold on just a moment. I thought we were getting to the end of your journey, Lars. Why are you talking about mountains and ice and old battles? Because he needs to get to the flame of the giants in order to burn his way through the impenetrable thorns that bar his way to Queen Marika. He has to kill Ranni's stepmother in order to fully overthrow the Golden Order and allow Ranni the chance to ascend with her own order, God and Lord Consort both. Now, I get that, you idiot bonehead. For all your smarts, you're not getting my point! Why are we still talking about this and not jumping straight to Ranni's Ascension and them shaking the earth during the honeymoon? You disgusting man. A guy has his needs. Plus, by this point, most isekai stories that have a romance subplot would have already gotten to the hot and heavy unless this is just a story teasing you with silly blushing, flirting, and miscommunications that go nowhere. And really just an ambiguous ending. The kind of stuff that's been plaguing too many stories with romantic subplots since forever. But given the comments from Lars earlier, I definitely took this as to be one of those stories that had the more explicit little subplots. So where's the boinking? Come on, Kazuma. We're aiming for quality storytelling here. I guess, though, the ultimate aim of my quest is to marry the Lunar Princess. But Elden Ring is about far more than who's sleeping with whom and when. Well, the deeper lore of your world could have fooled me. Look here, in my story, despite the many adult themes, I never get it on with any... Because you're a skeleton with no libido! I'll show you libido! You know, on second thoughts. Can we just get on with the story? The sooner we let Lars tell us what happens, the sooner you might get that hot and heavy stuff that you love so much, Kazuma. Where were we again, though? Let's see. Oh yeah! I was killing the fire giants. My victory was not all it seemed to be at first, because something necessary but horrible was afoot. Retrieving the giant's flame initiated a sequence of events that I was ill prepared for.
I have long observed the lands between. This world is in dire need of repair and death. Indiscriminate. Are you prepared to commit a cardinal sin? Very well. Let my hand rest upon you. For but a moment. O Erdtree, you shall burn. Burn for the sake of the new Lord. Thank you for guiding me here. The one who walks alongside flame shall one day meet the road of destined death. Goodbye.
When I awoke, I found myself in the ruins of the ancient Beastman city, suspended in the storms off the shores of the lands between, a dangerous haven for the dragons of the world, where ancient secrets, powers, and treasures could be found. And it was in this place, the city of Far Missoula, that I discovered two of my most challenging foes. However, I was racked with haunting questions. The only way to gain any insight was to push ahead, and I forged a bloody path through the catacombs and grand palaces of a once great city. Indeed, I found my answers, and of course, they were at the point of my oversized blade. By confronting the last of the Godskin apostles, I ransacked their ancient knowledge and learned dangerous truths of the nature of the gods themselves. And thanks to my time in the Shadowlands, I knew that America had ascended from shaman girl to goddess, but the nature of the gods was far more tenuous than I had supposed. They could all be disposed of. Under the right circumstances, of course. For within this universe, destined death was a force that could not be denied. Even the gods would eventually pass away and make room for a new age. However, destined death, a necessary element of the universe, had vanished, but it needed to be released again if Marika was to be slain. Evidence that supported this discovery was the presence of a former Elden Lord sealed within Far Missoula. However, his presence suggested what horrors I was fated to confront on this road I had chosen. For the powers of time itself were at the whim of the gods and their servants. Marika had discovered a way to seal destined death away, and had rigged anyone's attempts to defeat her to initiate a sequence of other events that would result in their ultimate demise. It was this dangerous information that propelled me forward. But first I had to survive my encounter with Dragon Lord plus Sedusax.
I'll admit,
I should have permanently died facing the great Dragon Lord, but I won by the skin of my teeth in order to beat his ancient magic and return to the present. Though I had slain a god already, Placedusax was a monster and lord of a noble age and a fierce warrior, one of the greatest challengers I had yet faced. And now I understood even better. Marika wanted any challenger to her position to face the wielder of destined death and fall by their touch, or succumb to the denizens of the prowling, crumbling Farm Azula. But most dangerous of all was her champion, the one at the very end, the one who could only be reached by committing the first cardinal sin of the Golden Order, and against whom I was not supposed to live. Guarded by the last faithful knight of both the Erdtree and the Golden Order, the champion was finally before me, and it was none other than a dubious ally who had taught me powerful moves and powers of the ancient beasts to fight against those who lived in death. A warrior who had lived longer than I suspected, and who had guided the Erdtree Knights, and even more dangerously helped to form the Order of the Night Riders, who had scoured the lands between of those who had become Elden Lord. There might have once been a king in Lindell, but the true power behind the throne was a monster in monk robes. Marika's lion and chosen blade, Malekith, the one who had played the board the queen had set to stop her daughter from ascending. It was he who wielded destined death, and it was he who would be my next great foe.
Oh, death. Become my blade once more. Cannot be restored.
The rune
son of death is unbound. And the lands between are shrouded by death's dark fate. But the flames will also burn the impenetrable thorns. Farewell it is then. You'll be Elden Lord yet.
With Malekith defeated and destined death sent back into the world, it was time to return to Lindell and finally enter the Erdtree. What I arrived to was a city covered in the ashes of the great burned tree. The entire city was submerged under burning ash, covering up the misdeeds and grandeur of the Golden Order. It was also far easier now to climb up to the castle complex to Marika's throne, but I found my way frustratingly barred by an old tarnished who had always looked down on me, Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing.
It's a sad state of affairs. I commend your spirit, but alas, none shall take the throne. Queen Marika has high hopes for us, that we continue to struggle unto eternity. Cannot become a lord. Not even you. A man cannot kill a god.
What ended up being a hilariously quick battle revealed some knowledge that Gideon had mined in his own quest to become Elden Lord, though his goals changed once he learned other buried but world-rending truths that I had not yet uncovered. For as it turned out, Marika was enslaved to the greater will. The god over all known creation had sought perfection, though itself was not so, and had worked across the eons and multiple gods and lords, trying to create the perfect world with perfect beings at its head. Marika was not perfect. In fact, she wanted to die. But this is where things became even more complicated. You see, after she had rejected and sent Godfrey, her first lord, away with his armies of banished tarnished, stripped of grace, the queen sought freedom from her own position. For she was a slave to the greater will, but unable to renege her position, and closely watched by the greater will itself. She manifested a version of herself which became Radagon. As Radagon, she journeyed the lands between, and fought on behalf of the Golden Order. Eventually, though Radagon had married into the Carrion line, and sired my beloved Ranni, he left Rennala, and joined Queen Marika in a strange union, an unnatural one. And then, when the Night of Black Knives went down, Queen Marika vanished, and the Elden Ring was shattered, with fragments taken up by her children. And where was the queen? Or her new consort? Marika was imprisoned by the greater will, as Radagon was up to who knew what. Suddenly, my quest to overthrow the Erdtree Dynasty had become a possible rescue mission? This was too many twists and turns to the end of the mission. But there was one more waiting for me. A warrior who had been whispered about across the shores of the lands between. A figure who had been spoken of with honor and reverence by nearly every denizen of this world. A figure whose actions had shaped my own unknown past. Or at least the body of the tarnished I inhabited since getting isekai'd. The legendary general, champion, and conqueror himself, Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
It's been A long while, Morgoth. Long and hard didst thou fight, tarnished warrior, spurned by the grace of gold. Be assured the Elden Ring resteth close at hand. Alas, I am returned. To be granted audience once more. Upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. That will be all. Thou didst me good service, Sirosh. I've given thee courtesy enough. Now I fight as Horalu. Warrior! Tarnished. Thy strength.
With Godfrey's final words ringing in my ears, I marched up the last stairs and through the burning Erdtree to confront my destiny. And it was not what I was expecting, because Marika was a broken woman, crucified on a crescent beam of grace, and when her body shattered, a tarnished and rotting Radigan, emerge to murder me and take back the fragments of the Elden Ring, to forge it anew and re-imprison Marika to keep the Greater Will's golden order in place. And so began my great and final battle. At long last, I had triumphed! I was Elden Lord, and all that remained was to greet my bride.
The battle is over, I see. I do solemnly swear to every living being and every living soul. Now cometh the age of the stars. 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond. Into fear, doubt, and loneliness, as the path stretcheth into darkness. Let us go together. My dear consort eternal.
Phew! Finally! But wait, what happens next? Where's the boinking, man? More like, what the lore, Batman? How does any of that make sense, what we just saw? Well, we are trying to find clear answers in a story written by George R. Martin, so don't expect an ending or anything that would make sense by the end. Well, you've got that right! But what about the sexiness and the bedroom times? Even if there's no clear answers, what does any of this mean for isekai? This just feels like a drop in the bucket of so many stories that all mirror each other. We've seen what the genre once was, but it feels like we're now stuck in an endless loop of video game knockoffs with barely any worthiness to their stories. Well, there is one thing that Christopher Paolini once told me. You may have plenty of dragon stories, but you haven't read my dragon story yet. Well, what is that supposed to mean? It means that even though you've encountered lots of stories similar to mine, you haven't yet read my story. You haven't heard mine yet. You haven't seen it yet. And if you give me a chance, I can tell you something that will knock your socks off. Well, you have died more times than me, and you have a story as dark and foreboding as Ain's is, but what did Ranni's ending even mean? That's for all of us to decide for ourselves, based on our own experiences with the tale. Granted, if we played through Elden Ring ourselves, or if we were somehow isekai'd there, or maybe just by watching all of Smoketown's videos, we'd probably know a whole lot more. Link in the description. Exactly. A story should have a proper ending, provide lots of answers for the characters and for the audience. But the answers for you, in this particular case, are something you need to figure out. It's kind of like what Hoyd says. Oh, I'm not buying that! Seriously, Lars, just tell us, is that really the ending? Nope, because once I ascended alongside Ranni, I chose to come back to the lands between as a god in an alternate timeline, so I could destroy everyone and everything that gave me grief before.
Madness takes its toll. I've got to keep control. Let's do the time again.
It's just a jump to the left with your hands on your hips.
And then a step to the right. I remember doing the time
Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and I hope that you enjoyed this meta isekai adventure of That Time I Married a Goddess. It's been a lot of fun doing something a little bit more with Elden Ring and poking fun at my own difficulties with finally finishing this game, but I also wanted to take the chance to make fun of what isekai has become. But do not fear though, just because it feels like isekai is forever stuck in derivative, uninventive video game knockoff worlds, Portal Fantasy is still alive and well. Any world a writer wishes to create via Portal Fantasy, whatever adventures they want to throw unexpected people from Earth into, it's all for the taking. If you'd like to see what I have written in the Portal Fantasy genre, please check out my Legend of the Ten Lords books, starting with Knights of Halicruz, then The Dark Rebellion, and then The Marauding Empire Parts 1 and 2. I also have the fourth book coming out hopefully later this year. But if you don't want to dive into a massive series, you can also jump into the real deep end of some crazy Portal Fantasy adventures in my book, The Monarch Mercenaries Autonomy, which has world-hopping professional pirates that go to all kinds of worlds, do all kinds of shenanigans. It's a great book. And making these videos as well has just also been a blast. And I do want to try creating more original content in the future. There are several ideas right now bouncing around my head, but for now, my books will have to do. They kind of take priority for me. But if you've enjoyed That Time I Married a Goddess, then I highly recommend, again, checking out my Portal Fantasy books. Or for some hilarious rom-com fun, a little bit better than my relationship, more fleshed out than my relationship with Ranni, then you can read my short book, Notice Me, Senpai. But as for Elden Ring, I intend to carry out my revenge on the lands between. But given how long it took me to complete the game in the first place, revenge might end up being a very cold dish indeed. But hey, I got a four-armed blue enchantress waifu out of it, so it was all worth it in the end.
Carrion queens give this weapon to their husbandos. Ranni-chan gave this to me.
Thank you all.
Finally, if you'd like to support the work that we do here at Camille's Harem, subscribing to our channel is always a great idea. Leave your comments down below about what you thought about this particular adventure, things I could improve on, stories you might like to hear, things that you would like to learn about writing and so forth. We want to hear it all. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this crazy, insane isekai adventure that we often call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.